And good morning, depending where you are today with us in Canada. We appreciate you taking the time to be part of this conversation series that we have every month. And we've had some incredible leaders, but the two leaders that we're going to hear from today, that we're going to have a cup of coffee with and a conversation, are nothing short of legends within the USANA business, both in Canada and around the world. In fact, we were just talking about I was just in Europe, and they said where, because they had spent so much time even building in Europe and then within the UK. So while we talk about John and Susanne Cunningham being, key leaders within the Canadian marketplace, they're also key leaders within all of USANA. And I'm excited to get to know them a little bit better on this call and understand how they began their business, et cetera. So without further ado, I'm going to just read a brief introduction to give everybody a little bit of background on this amazing duo. So over 29 years ago, this dynamic pair discovered USANA and have never looked back. And boy, isn't that the truth, creating a tidal wave of momentum that created a global team along the way. Currently living on we'll call it the West Coast in Canada, in Kelowna, British Columbia. It's a little bit far from the coast, but close enough. And they're here today to share their stories and to talk to us about their beginnings and some of their key tips for anybody on this call. So please welcome executive 3-star Diamond directors and Pinnacle League members, John and Susanne Cunningham. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank
Hello,
you.
everybody.
Hi, everyone.
Nice to see you.
I want to thank you for taking the time away from your leisure activities today. I know, John, you gave up golf today to be part of this, and we really appreciate that. And Susanne, I know you're busy. I watch you on social media, and you're always keeping busy. So thank you for taking the time today to share.
Our pleasure. Absolutely our pleasure.
So I had mentioned that it was about 29 years ago that you started your USANA business. So thinking back 29 years, boy, I'm sure that's difficult to do. 29 years is a long time ago. Tell us a little bit about how you started your business in USANA.
Well, first of all, just say about the 29 years, I always say that USANA is one of the top 3 things, or the longest thing that we've done in our lives. So we've been married the longest, parents the second longest, 36 years as parents, 42 years as married, and USANA 29 years. So those are the 3 things that the two of us have committed to the longest in our lifetime. So yes, it's hard to remember, but at the same time, it's hard to forget because it's a big part of our lives. And as far as the story, well, it was a fateful day, if you will, when I got a phone call. And I remember rolling my eyes and thinking, I don't have time for this. I don't have time for another thing. Our boys were 3, 5, and 7 at the time. I was running another self-employed kind of business. John was fully engaged in his career in management, and he can add to that along the way. And I just thought, I don't have time. As the days progressed, a few days later, I decided to take a listen, just out of respect for the person who had called me. And he was just an acquaintance, somebody that I'd met through another business venture, an acquaintance. I wouldn't even call him a friend, but one thing we did know is that it's not easy to ask someone. So I wanted to respect that. And when I tell you this, it's because I think that so many people that are prospecting think about that as well, that who could they ask or what's their connection and all of that. But when I think back, it really was would have been easy not to go. But as I got dressed on the Saturday morning to head off to that breakfast meeting, I came downstairs to John and met a little bit of resistance.
Absolutely. Well, we did have a very active life, and Susanne, being self-employed, was extremely busy. I was a corporate guy moving up the ladder. Our boys were into everything as far as activities. And so I said to Susanne, we just don't have time for anything else. And so she surprised me by coming downstairs all dressed up on that fateful Saturday morning. And I said, where are you going? She said, well, I'm going to take a look at this because I respect the person that asked me to take a look at it. And the least I can do is do that. So I got kind of my back up a little bit. And I said, well, don't buy anything, don't sign anything.
Famous last words.
And so she left, and the door rattled a little bit, but not too badly. And so Susanne was gone for a few hours, and then she came home.
Yeah, my mom was visiting. John and my mom had a long conversation about Susanne and her crazy ideas and the things that she gets herself into. And I didn't buy anything or sign anything, but I was extremely intrigued. And I have to say, it was sort of an uncomfortable meeting too. Rennie, who had invited me, was waiting for the person who was supposed to do the main presentation. And as the minutes and then half hour progressed, and he was sweating quite a lot because the presenter had not arrived yet. But that's only because he was doing another presentation somewhere, signing someone up into the business, and was late. That man was Ron Dowie, who became one of our greatest friends and mentors, and many people who hear this story today will remember him. But it's curious, again, how all of that came to play. It took about a week. I kept suggesting to John that he would read the material. You know, back then we had our Health and Freedom newspaper. No, Money and Freedom. It was called Money and Freedom newspaper. And my theory was that if it was in the newspaper, it was true and accurate, and the best way for John to get information, which I couldn't express completely. I kept moving it around the house, and he kept putting his coffee cup on top of it. He was not interested. It would have very easily become a birdcage liner. I joked that I even put it in the bathroom hoping he'd pick it up. He did not. He did not. He was not going to read that material. He was definite resistance. And how we finally got in is that Rennie, the man who called me originally, phoned and followed up. And I said, you know what, Rennie, and I can still see myself sitting at my desk that day. I said, you know, Rennie, I don't want you to hold your breath. I don't have any support here, and I don't want to say no, but I don't think I can say yes. And within about 10 minutes, Ron called. They had already spoken, and Ron called and said, gee, it was great meeting you. You know, I'd love to hear what you're thinking. And I said, oh, funny, you should call. I just spoke to Rennie and told him that I don't have any support. John's just not interested, and I don't know how we're going to move forward. And he asked a simple question, and his question was, what needs to happen next? What needs to happen next? And again, I can remember myself sitting there because I had to answer that question. And the answer was, John needs to hear this from somebody other than myself. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, I'm in town. I could come by. I said, okay, let me check. And it was the Easter weekend. John was off for a long weekend, out shoveling snow. And when he came in, I stood at the bottom of the stairs and I called up and I said, the guy that presented the material to me the other day would like to come over. Would that be okay? And I can remember, you know, feeling sweaty palms and kind of shaking, kind of being nervous that he's going to, you know, give me the don't buy anything, don't sign anything kind of attitude. And he went, whatever. So I took that as a yes.
That's man speak for a yes.
So I took that as a yes. And I went back to Ron and said, okay, yes, come on over. And he said, I can be there in 10 minutes.
So one of the things is, first of all, John is not a hard guy to get along with. However, my resistance was based on lack of information.
Sure.
And Susanne didn't add, when she's telling the story just now, that when she went to ask me to take a look at it,
I was going to.
You go right ahead.
What I was going to finish off saying is that I recognized, and it took me about 2.5 years later, we were standing on stage in Toronto, and I realized that reaction that I had, the clammy hands and the nervous feeling, was simply me standing on the edge of my future. I could have stepped back and, you know, just went with never mind, it's okay. Or I could have stepped through. And either way, the feeling would go away because I don't have that feeling anymore. Either way, the feeling would go away. But that day, that moment was definitely the beginning of the rest of our lives.
So Ron came over, shared the information. I was a little bit like this in the beginning. And then over time, I listened a little bit more to the Money and Freedom as he was going through it. And it was a section where they talked about degenerative diseases, you know, cancer, heart disease, etc. And my mind went back to my mother, who at the age of 41 had a heart attack and passed away, and left left 5 small kids behind. I being the youngest.
Wow.
And I was 36 at that time, 5 years away from 41. And so I started to pay attention, because I realized that I'm not immune to being any different than my mother was at the age of 41. And if I don't pay attention to my health today, what will I pay for later? And so that caught my attention, and it got me to a place where Susanne could say yes.
No, you said yes. Where
Yeah.
John
Well, we
actually
both
said,
said yes.
where John
Oh.
actually said, okay, okay, yes. And I was like, what did you do with my husband? Anyway, he said yes, but he was saying yes to the products, obviously, for his own reasons. And I didn't know that reason until many, many years later. John actually shared that that was kind of the turning point when he translated his age and his mother's age when she had left. And anyway, so I heard him say yes, and I said, okay, then I'm going to do the business. And we did up the paperwork. And again, back in the day, we did up the paperwork, and I was self-employed. So I had a fax machine, and we faxed that application in immediately. And Ron would have told the story. He's no longer with us, but he would have told the story that it was the fastest, you know, written and sent in application, because it didn't take much more than about 35 minutes for him to say what he needed to say, for John to say, okay, and for me to say done, and it was faxed in. So yeah, it was a whirlwind 1 week with lots of the traditional, I don't know, issues, the objections, all of the things that come up for people. We didn't know any of that at the time. You know, it's just a story. It was just what we were living at the time. But as we look back, it helped us to understand why some people will say no, or why there's a resistance in the household, or you're looking for that magic thing that will be the reason they say yes.
So Susanne
Timing.
got started, with the mindset this was a real business opportunity. I got started with the mindset that these were really great products, and very quickly it shifted. Susanne saw benefit with the products, and I saw that this could be a really good business. And we both started approaching this as a full concept of both business and products.
Yeah, being rewarded, every week, the way the compensation plan was for the activity that we had done, the sales that we had made, the people that had joined the team. As it was growing, John was quite intrigued by that. I expected it. If you work hard, that's what happens. But I really didn't expect the benefits from the product that I felt. And I did feel a difference. And that was pretty cool.
It's amazing. I think back to, I wish I could speak to Ron today, and to Renee, to imagine that decision that they had to, first of all, ask you, your decision for him to continue to work with you, even though there was some resistance, and even your decision to say yes, has affected so many lives across not just Canada, but around the world. And it all started with Renee and Ron having that fearless attitude of, I'm going to offer it. I'm going to continue to work through. I see something in these people that I believe will make them great in this business. And yours of having the faith to work together as a team, and support of each other, even though there might have been a little resistance in the beginning. But clearly, as you said, you've been together for over 40 years. You're partners in many, many things, in all things in life. And what a benefit, USANA, both Canada and as a company, so many people have had such benefit from your decision to say yes to this opportunity. And I know, John, you initially said you had done it for health, and Susanne, you initially had done it for the business. And is that what really was the final decision to join? Were those two things?
For me, yes. I said to Susanne, go ahead. You're a business person. Go ahead and approach this the way you would approach all your business activities, and I'll be a good product user. the interesting thing was, is I saw results with the products, and I worked in a corporate environment with lots of people, and you talk. And by talking to people about the products, I was finding that people were interested, and they were also interested in how they could get these products and turn it into a part-time business. And then all of a sudden I realized, wow, this is something that could really be pretty fun and a unique opportunity. And Susanne, of course, with her business skills that she had from before, she knew what she needed to do.
Yeah. So I always had the mindset of business, but you can't have a business without products or service or whatever it is that you're doing. So I knew that I needed to have my own personal experience. So we spent a lot of time, just watching, we got to work right away, I should say. But at the same time, we were building our own experience with the products in the business. And then over time, we were just talking about a book, New Facts About Fiber by Betty Kamen. We're lying on the beach at the cottage where we took the kids every weekend, and we're reading, we're studying, we're learning more about health and well-being and so on. And so I read through the whole book, and we were using Fiber G at the time, one of the products that had been released, and I'm reading through it, and I finished the book, and fiber has so many benefits in the body. And so I said to John, just grab the product book. Now we're on the beach, so we had our product book and, this, little study book with us. And I said, just pull up the book. I'm just going to read through each of the fibers that she recommends, and then double checked it against the USANA products. And went, yes, they're all there. All 13, sources of fiber are there. And it just was, again, like little check marks over time that we kept experiencing that made us realize that this isn't just something. It's extremely grounded, extremely big foundation. And we had to grow in that, so that, because we met resistance from, our family, our friends, lots of people that would say, you've just, been brainwashed, so to speak. But this took that away from me. This, by validating in different ways, it just took it away and said, no, the whole world knows this. It's just we don't know this. We're talking about it now. Antioxidants, they used to look at us with cross-eyed at the word antioxidant. And then within, a couple of years, it was antioxidants in your gum, antioxidants in, whatever. And people were going, oh, antioxidants. Yes, I know those, so it just became really cool, really, to be forefront in a lot of ways. Nice. It was hard because we were forefront, but also really cool.
We were students, we would get the little cassettes that USANA put out. Dr. McDonald would put out a cassette. He'd talk about superoxide dismutase, and I would be absorbing it.
Every day on the way to work.
Yeah, on the way to work, I'd play that cassette, and then I'd present at our weekly meetings, and they started calling me Dr. John, and then I realized, wait a minute, I don't need to be that. I don't need to be that detailed. But my belief system went up, of course, right? And if your belief system is up, it's much easier to break down the resistance that you might have from preconceived ideas.
And when you talk,
I was going to say, belief in yourself, belief in the company, and certainly belief in the products. And when you have those things and the opportunity combined, and you speak with such authority and with enthusiasm and passion, people are drawn into that. People are drawn and want to be part of your energy and be part of your organization, I'm sure.
No, it made a huge difference. We had to have belief in ourselves. So our own stories and the things we were learning and the results other people were getting as well, whether it was in the business or with the products, it was amazing, and it was exciting. And we had a tremendous mentor. You mentioned if only you could talk to them now, Rennie and Ron. I mean, each from a very different place, one with little experience and always trying to claw through and find that thing. And that was my sponsor, Rennie. And the other one who had done well at other things, but really saw network marketing as an opportunity to free him. And then the next skill that he had, or just talent that he had, was this magnetism to draw people forward, but also to see more in them than they saw in themselves. and to be able to follow that through. So that mentorship was huge.
Mhm.
When he passed away 7 years into the business and left John and I, you know, from that, we were like the Three Stooges sometimes, I think.
Yeah.
Being left just on our own and really having to realize that, you know, we've got this, we can do this. And I remember looking at John and saying, we need to be the glue that keeps this stuck together. And that really was a huge transition time again. So I think one thing that we've always done pretty well is we take the challenges on wholeheartedly, and rather than run from them. Whether it was asking John to look at the business, whether it was taking a trip to open a new country, you know, whether it was to, you know, pick up the phone and call that friend or a family member that wasn't as supportive as we needed, or wasn't initially, but we hadn't given up on them. And then, yeah, that big one, which was a really big deal in our business life as well.
It was huge, and we were Emerald directors at the time when Ron passed, and we knew that it's that, you know, standing on the edge of the future, and really, again, do we step back or do we step through? And we stepped through. We said, yeah, we've got to accelerate this business because we believe in it. We believe the path we've been on. And so by that was, a few months later, we were Diamond. And it was just a matter of recognizing that the seeds were planted, and the mentorship that we've been given, we now needed to share that with others and duplicate. And that enabled us to grow.
Duplicate more. I mean, it was, there was a lot of people that would be part of this giant team. Like you say, there's a lot of people that it spilled over on. And so we just knew that initially it was to ease that loss and then follow that through with showing by example, but really giving people the concept that we've got this, not just we have got this. We learned well, and we can do this, and we're with the right company. And here we are, 22 years later, and still with the same company, and still, you know, believe strongly. I just came back from Sauna Vive and had the treat of coming down the stairs and seeing Dr. Wentz.
Oh,
and,
wow.
and the next morning, I was looking at the puzzle and hearing good morning. And I looked up and it was Dr. Wentz.
Oh my God.
And then I'm coming out of the quiet room and he's on the way into the quiet room. He uses what he has, you know, so that visionary quality, and people would be, you seem to know him. And I went, he's the visionary. He's the visionary behind the place and why I'm here the 7th time.
Yeah. And I mean, your success is really the legacy of those that brought you in and before. And now those that you have brought in, that you have mentored and worked with for so many years, their success is your legacy as well.
No, for sure. I mean, the legacy spreads for sure. The ripples have spread.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Over the 29 plus years that you've been working and building your business in USANA, I'm sure you've had some really, really great days and maybe some very, very challenging days. So I'd love to ask maybe, and this is probably a very difficult answer because, you know, over 29 plus years, you probably had so many incredible experiences, but can you share with us maybe what was one of your best days in USANA?
Sure. The best day for me was when or I guess we'd call winners of the Dr. Wentz Vision Award, because we believed in his vision. We still believe in his vision. And so it was an honor to be recognized out of the many, many, many people. So for me, that was the best day in USANA.
It was a pretty cool day because John had in his wallet something that I didn't know was there. It was a little piece of paper. And on that little piece of paper, there was number 1, so-and-so goes gold. Number 2,
we move a level.
We move a level. Number 3, we win the Dr. Wentz Vision Award. It was folded up in a little tiny square in his wallet, and he'd been carrying that around for over a year. And so it was, I tease him that it's not our job to plan for other people, But the fact that he put that, to win to win the Dr. Wentz Vision Award was pretty cool. And that was on the throes of the convention the year before, where we sat in the bleachers. We sat, it wasn't a year of great movement in our business or much, whatever. We were feeling it. We were feeling it was different than the years before. And we were feeling that it was, that we were kind of down and out that day. Anyway, but I remember riding home on the plane and I'm like, I'm poking John, I'm poking Ron, and I'm saying like, no, we can do this. We can do it like this and this and this. We can put this together. We can pull this together. We can move levels. We can move mountains. And they looked at me like I was still a little crazy. But we came home and we put on a weekly event in a basement of a church. And it was called Laser Focus, Your Roadmap to Success, which is the book. But that's what we did. So everybody tracked their activity. Everybody attended the weekly event. It was all about awards and rewards for the activity necessary to build the business. And we did that every week for a year, with the exception of holiday weeks, for a year. And on the throes of that, many people achieved levels that they had set goals to achieve. We moved another level, and maybe that's where that little piece of paper came from that John had written the goal, probably possibly, because it was a big goal setting as well as activity, purposeful. It wasn't presentations. It was all about what to do, how to do it, that you've done it, and being rewarded for doing it. And we had lots of team members on stage. It was a year where they were actually having a car giveaway. You had to, I can't exactly, it was a draw involved, but anyway, that they had to do something to get there. Yeah. So we had people on our team that were in the running, and lots of people on stage from our team. And so the hard effort, yes, certainly we wanted to move a level, but we can't do that alone, right? So our team grew and they got rewarded, and as they got rewarded, we saw the benefits as well. And I videotaped a lot of it, and I did find some videos, some of the old videos, and I thought, wow, some of these people would love to see this again. But anyway, it was documented, it was tracked, it was very purposeful. And so I don't know, I think it kind of rides with the best day, but maybe one of the worst days too, coming off of that convention, not feeling like, that we deserved to be there or whatever. We sort of took a fallback position. But I used all the information that was offered to us, and it really put me in a different place. So it was losing Ron, and all the team would agree, it was a great loss, and what we had to do about it, and seeing that all come together. Yeah, it was a catalyst at the same point. So there's probably been lots of highs and lows, but I think those ones, and they're kind of all within a year that all happened. So
a pivotal year for you, for sure.
Yeah.
And as you think about it, and I think in some ways you probably already responded to this question, but because you talked about coming home and taking action, intentional action, but in terms of success in USANA and in direct sales, what would be a key tip that you would share? Maybe it's hard. You've given so many tips and so much work, but if there's one thing that you could just tell people that are watching.
You have one, I'll do one.
For me, it's really developing your core beliefs. So there's the belief in self, belief in others, belief in the industry, the products. Start picking something so if you're someone out there, you're not sure, that quadrant can be pretty scary. It's like the 4 tires of a car, right? And so if 3 tires are fully inflated, but your belief in yourself is low, you're not going to go far. So inflate that tire. And how do you do that? Well, you read books, you surround yourself around people who are goal-driven, mission-driven, have showed success. So it's recognizing that if at the end of the day, all 4 quadrants lead back to belief in self. But the process is, you become a student. and then take action once you've ingrained some of that. You'll just always be a student. You now have to put that to test.
Yeah, that's a really great point. I mean, if you buy a book for $20, it's really just a book worth $20. But if you put into action what's in that book can be worth $100,000. Really, if you put that into practice. And I think so many people attend things, they watch, they listen, they read, but do they really put them into intentional action? Which is probably the most difficult thing, because as you know, you come back from convention, everybody's excited. And I always say, just come back with one thing, put one thing into motion, because there's so many things that you want to do, but focusing on even just one will make a difference. And as you get that success, it will give you more fuel to keep going into more.
Yep. And I would say, treat it like a business. Now, for us, that is what we did. I mean, I had my fundraising business and I was a mother of 3 children and a wife, but I set aside time for USANA. And whether it's a day a week, or it's 7 days a week, or it's minutes a week, or it's hours a week, it has to be intentional. And if you do that, it'll become habit before you know it. Initially, it's hard to carve the time, but then it becomes habit, and you would miss it if you weren't doing it. So it's really focusing on, what do you want to accomplish? And if, for a tangible thing to do, I call it the precious 5. But, your time is precious. That's why it's called precious 5. And write down 5 things that you're going to do today. Very specific things, not I'll prospect. It's I'll talk to Mary when I'm at the gym and give her a sample. I'll call Frank and follow up. I will pick up or set up a Zoom call with this person and this person, and so on. And those are the things then that you focus on doing and checking off. And if you don't do 2 of them, those 2 go back to the top of the list tomorrow and add 3 more. And it will prevent you from not to do next. It'll prevent you from putting putting things on your list that are chicken list things, and you really don't have the nerve to do. But if it's back on your list every day, sooner or later, you'll want to see it gone. So it's treating it like a business. If it's a hobby, I mean, I started doing a little jewelry hobby, making jewelry and getting kits once a month. Well, I've got 5 kits and I've got 1 necklace and 1 pair of earrings made. Not so hot, right? But if I said that I was going to sit down once a week at a certain time and put it on the table when the sun's shining in through the window on the right side, I'd have it all made, right? But so that's the difference between a hobby and a business, right? If I was making it a serious, important thing, and it doesn't change my life if I make 1 more kit of jewelry.
Yes.
But it did change our lives building our USANA business.
Yeah.
So priorities, and of course, being able to place priorities in your life. And one of those things could be to take off X amount of time to spend with the kids, or to go somewhere and do something for yourself, whatever it might be. But it's being able to be very intentional, and it's necessary. I don't think it's and you should just keep doing it until you're really good at it, because it takes a little while to put a new system into habit.
Yeah.
I think you just demonstrated the fact that what we often say is that businesses make money and hobbies cost money.
They do.
They do. And John, you let her buy the jewelry kits?
No.
No resistance?
I just buy her jewelry.
No, yeah, but did you say it was okay if I bought jewelry?
Oh yeah.
Sure. Well,
I think we're over that now. It was.
Well, you went to the golf pro shop to get a new golf club or something. Yes. Now, if I don't know, maybe there would be nothing that you would do differently, but if you could rewind 29 years, would you do anything differently in your business?
I have mixed feelings. So I know that if we had changed anything, we wouldn't have gotten the results that we've gotten, and we don't know what they'd be. So who knows?
Yeah.
But I did have this grand idea when Australia was opening that I was thinking that we should just rent our house out and load up the children and husband and I go off to Australia and start building there when it was fresh and young. And We didn't. I chickened out, I think. I got a little nervous about what that would really look like, and I stopped talking about it, and it just went away. But had I kept talking about it, it would have happened. But maybe that was again, the seed that caused, our son to now be there for more than 10 years and to
Wow.
have found Australia as his home. So
Yeah.
maybe Australia was buzzing around in my head somehow, and I just, it was different timing, that's all. So instead we get to go and visit on a regular basis, and there's nothing stopping us now.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. For me, I really, the path just seemed to be the right path when I look back. There are some things that I certainly could have done better, but they were learning processes. I went to the UK. Susanne and I went to the UK. We took turns going when it was opening. And I remember one time I was there, it was Thanksgiving weekend here, and I was in the UK, and the person that I was working with, they went to work, and it was pouring rain. And if you know things about the UK, it's not warm in the house. And so it was really cold. I'm talking to Susanne.
It was Thanksgiving.
I'm talking to Susanne on the phone. It was a beautiful weekend. She's at the farm. And I said, they've gone to work. I don't have any prospects or whatever. And she says, well, you know what you're supposed to do? We talked about this. And I go, yeah, but I don't want to. She says, yeah, I know you don't want to. She said, I wouldn't want to either, but you're there. So what did I want to do? Well, I actually opened up the yellow pages, and I started prospecting, professionals, chiropractors, osteopaths. I went into the newspapers and I cross-pitched other people that were putting ads in for their network marketing. And I tell you, I got some pretty interesting responses, but the long and short of it is that we ended up with a gentleman that was very successful in another company that we started to work with. So for me, that was totally out of my comfort zone. So what would I have done differently? I would have probably done that more often in my other markets, because you just never know. And it helped break through a lot of my barriers for fear, false evidence appearing real. And for me, it really was that. It was me being my hardest critic. And so getting through that faster would have given us results maybe faster.
I think a lot of people hold back for that same reason. And again, I go back to the person who offered you this opportunity so long ago. And imagine if I can only imagine if they had never had the courage or got in their own way to not offer to you, and how differently so many people's lives would be, not only your family and yourselves, but all of those people in your downline that you have brought into this business, and their lives have benefited so greatly because of that.
Yeah, their lives, but their people's lives, their people, all of their lives.
It goes on and on.
So many. My goodness, we go to convention and, you hear the stories, or you meet someone new, and they're people that you would never have met. And you hear some pretty incredible stories from both the business and the health side. And just, if one didn't happen, the others would not have happened. Certainly not the same way. Sure, they could have heard it from somewhere else, maybe. And yet still to this day, we talk to people that have never heard of USANA.
Yeah.
Which is a suggestion that we all have work to do, right? Because, and that's what we're doing when we're sharing it. So we shouldn't stop. Or we heard it long ago, but haven't heard of it since. Well, again, here it is again. The timing is better. So
I know that you both inspire and have inspired so many people throughout your career, just, being who you are and doing what you do. And I think I already know the answer to this, but who inspires you or inspired you in your business?
Well, I'll go first. And Susanne, I talked a little bit about this yesterday, and there could be lots of other people that I can think of, from Ron to Rennie, but the long and short of it is Susanne for me. I mean, she was the one catalyst to take a look at this. She's been a self-employed individual, took a chance when we first got married and got out of the corporate world because she saw that the vehicle in the corporate world was not going to reward her for her efforts. And so being just maybe that fly in the wall watching Susanne. Very inspirational as a person taking the time to break through barriers. And so she's my person.
Aw.
Well,
Well,
you know, you've been
thanks.
married for 40-something years. I have a feeling you're going to be married a lot longer with that,
Yeah,
John.
that helps.
That helps.
Okay, Susanne, it's your turn.
Yeah, well, and I would say the same. I think from the business point of view, you know, our early days and what we saw and how we learned to do it has to be Ron as the inspiration. However, you know, it's going to be corny because I'm saying John, but I'm saying John because he went from resistance to full on, like, in it, doing it.
Traveling the world.
So when people would see John and I together doing the business, they would say, how do I get my husband to do this? Or how do I get my wife to do this?
Mhm.
And so it's not easy. So it's not easy for you to be on the same page all the time, or maybe it's just a fact that you won't be on the same page all the time, but it's okay. So for us to be able to sort of go from, you know, what it was, resistance, to the fact that if I was supposed to do a presentation or meeting and couldn't go for some reason, John could go and they wouldn't have missed out on anything, right? Because John had full capability. He wasn't just the guy that was resisting and staying home with the kids, and vice versa. If he was supposed to do something, I could fill in. We knew our business and our products and the company well enough to be. So it's to be able to morph as you need to, I think, in a family. And I don't know that John would say that me building him his own office so I could get him out of my office at one point was his favorite day.
It's smaller though, I remember.
But it was a way to figure out how we could both be home, because he had left his job. He was doing this full time, and we went from having this freedom to being on top of each other. And then all of a sudden, he went away actually for a weekend to do USANA. And I painted a room and put a desk in there and got him all set up so he could do the business in his own private space. He was a little surprised, and yes, he's still bitter about the room was smaller, the desk was smaller, but we've survived through that. And it was another catalyst in us moving forward, building the business.
Yeah, I was a corporate guy, you know, that was moving up the ladder and had my eye on, you know, the next level of management, all the way up maybe someday to a director level. And so to step away from that corporate life, there was a lot of people that thought I'd lost my mind, you know, with the 3, 5, and 7-year-olds at home. Yet it was the right thing to do. And knowing that I was in partnership with Susanne, I'd already grown to the point that no matter what happened, I knew I was going to be okay, because my growth was significant enough that the business was very important, but I knew I could do what I needed to do.
Which is proof of the personal growth factor in building our network marketing business. It's not a little thing. It's huge in what we learn and experience and grow in the process.
Yeah.
Amazing. You know, as we start to wind down on this conversation, I'm going to ask you some questions, sort of really short answer questions, and you'll understand as we go. And the first thing I'm going to ask you is, what is your favorite USANA product? If you can only have to pick one. I'm sure that's very difficult, but
yeah, if I could only take one, it would be the Essentials, because it's the foundation.
Yeah, it's the baseline products for me. So the Essentials, that's where it started. That's where Dr. Wentz started. When he saw those cells in the laboratory that were flourishing, you know, and everything else is just a addendum to that.
Right. What's your favorite book, or what book are you reading currently?
My favorite book is The Last Lecture by Randy Pausch, and look it up. It's an older book, but I love stories that are based in real life or real drama, people's stories, and then have lots of messages within. I've actually got it here, and I just got lots of little papers, and every page has yellow highlights. So I would say that's my favorite book.
And my favorite book is The Way of the Peaceful Warrior by Dan Millman. And it really takes an angry person and turns them into a person that can flourish, get to know their inner being, and
Mhm.
take that anger and channel it into something more positive. It's an excellent book. And then what I'm currently reading is Lifespan: Why We Age and Why We Don't Have to. So, as I get to be in my 40s here, I want to make sure that
Sorry, you didn't catch
you
that?
didn't catch that.
I
At
did.
least-
I'm being very respectful and I'm not laughing.
Okay. But as we get older, it's important, just like you're learning the business or learning about products, become a student. There's so much great information out there about how we can look after our bodies as we age. And, old man time or old woman time is going to catch up to us and whatever. However, we can do things to slow the process down.
Amazing. Now you've obviously been to, like, I can't even imagine how many USANA trips you've been on and built your business in different countries. Do you have one favorite travel destination?
Wherever my boys are.
Good answer.
So
Yeah.
very lucky that one of them is Australia, one's Ontario, and one's Vancouver Island. So that's pretty much my favorite. I mean, we love adventures. So
We had some fantastic trips with USANA. So
yes.
Buenos Aires, Switzerland. We've been to all the Hawaiian Islands because of the USANA, Bali, Bora Bora. So we've had
Just came back from Africa
Just
twice.
came back.
We've been there twice. Love
so
it.
all those contribute.
He just wanted one.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
okay.
hard. It's
I'm
hard
happy to hear them
one.
all. And who would have thought, again, I'm thinking back to 29 years ago when, John, you were resistant, and Susanne, you were, thinking this is going to be a great opportunity. You could never probably have ever imagined that signing that piece of paper and putting that through your fax machine would bring all of this world travel and experiences, adventures that you've had throughout your life. So, boy, that was an amazing decision that you made, and one that I'm sure you think about often. Do you have a favorite?
Constantly.
Do you have a favorite indulgence?
Well, can you guess what mine is?
Golf.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm okay with spoiling myself, so I don't know if I have one, and I don't think anything's too ridiculous. So
Yeah.
For me, I think it would just be frequent travel. Like, I don't think of it as something you can only have a little bit of. I think of it as something you can have lots of. So I guess travel, lots of travel.
And I think the underlying indulgence for both of those is freedom of time.
Yes.
Which is so important. More and more people they talk about money, but I think post-pandemic, people have realized that the freedom of having time and decision to live where you want to live has really taken over as something. So it sounds like you both got that freedom of time to enjoy your life now. What is your proudest moment in USANA?
Well, for me, it's the birth of our three boys.
In USANA?
In USANA, my proudest moment in USANA, there's many of them, but they all relate to seeing our team grow, seeing our leaders in Mexico, become diamond directors and above, golds, rubies, so many down there in Canada, our team in Manitoba. It's fantastic, the leadership that's been there for 29 years, and they're still there, even though we've left. They've just continued, and I'm very proud to say that Manitoba, all of us there, it's a unique ecosystem in USANA, and I'm so proud to have been part of that.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think the proudest moment is the fact that our leaders are independent leaders. They figured out how to do it for themselves, for their own reasons. They lead their teams, and the fact they don't need us is perfect. Love it.
Did a great job.
Again, that was part of our early training, is you want to find people better than yourselves. You want to find people who will do it better and faster than yourself. And I really believe that, and I don't feel the need to, cause them to change what they do. We're there if they need us, but I love that they're independent and being strong. So, and it doesn't matter which which area of our business that is in. And I love that there's still new people that are committed every day.
You know, I had the opportunity to be with both of you last year at convention and be part of one of those, I think, proud moments when we were having dinner at the gala and Sheila Dancho was awarded the same award that you had received previously, the Dr. Wentz Award. And boy, what a privilege it was to be sitting between the two of you and watch you and your faces. And I could just tell how proud you were of her incredible accomplishment to receive that award.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah,
Absolutely.
it
It's
was
hard to
good
pick
be,
one. Yeah, it's
yeah,
always hard to pick one. There's
of
so
course,
many. But
of
yes,
course.
that's recent. That's very
Yes.
recent. And that was very exciting.
It was, absolutely.
I'm going to ask you one last question. What is your wildest dream for USANA? Where would you like to see USANA go and be? I mean, we always strive for 1 million, healthy families, the healthiest family. And, do you have a wild dream for what USANA could be?
Getting into USANA was hitching our wagon onto Dr. Wentz's vision to have a world free from pain and suffering, which I didn't think I could really have anything to do with. It was way too big for me. So I would say hitching our wagon onto the same desire that USANA has, that, the healthiest, 1 million healthy families or multi-million happy and healthy families, where USANA is an everyday word. That would be ideal because it would change people's health and it would make a difference, and it requires us to all share. And but the wildest dream is to see those dreams achieved. And we can't make, I can't make the world free from pain and suffering as Dr. Wentz chose, but I can make a little piece of my world that. And that's, if we all did that, then that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, from a wildest dream perspective, is that USANA is here 100 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
We're still a very young company. We're 32 years old. What will USANA be like 70 years from now?
It'd be interesting, won't it? And you've obviously had a very big part in perpetuating Dr. Wentz's vision and creating the healthiest family on earth, and your continual support and continual breathing belief into your team members, into so many people, and people you don't even necessarily know, cross-line, up-line, down-line, all over, as you know, is what will perpetuate this business. And it requires, as you say, for people to continue to share and talk about this incredible company to keep that going. And but I want to thank you both for all the work that you've done in your 29 plus years to perpetuate that, to speak that so passionately and with such confidence and belief in Dr. Wentz's vision, in the company, in the opportunity, of course, and in the products, which, are the foundation of what this business is. So on behalf of everybody at USANA, I just want to say thank you for everything that you've done over 29 plus years. I don't think we have a Lifetime Achievement Award, at least yet, but, I think if there was one, I think you'd be be right at the forefront to receive such an award. But I just want to say, and personally say, thank you for taking the time today away from golf and jewelry making, maybe, to be part of this and to share so openly and so, so freely with all of us today about your journey. And again, thank you very much for taking the time. And we appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you at convention very soon in Las Vegas.
Yes,
Before
awesome.
you know it. I can't imagine where we'd be without USANA. So
Yes,
thank you very
exactly.
much.
So thank you for having me. We really enjoyed this conversation today.
Wonderful. Thank you both so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye for now.
Have a good day.
Have a good day, everyone. Bye.